Ahoy there folks, I'm Captain Benzie and welcome to another developer Q&A video for Eve Echoes. Each week the developers take a series of questions posed by you the community, respond to them, and then post those responses to the official Eve Echoes Facebook page, Twitter account, Discord, and deep in the games files as well. If you go into your shipboard AI and tap on Q&A, you can find it all in there. Each week I like to add my own personal thoughts and opinions to these, adding the information I have from my time with the game, from previous developer Q&As including the Discord AMAs and things they've done in the past, and just general conversations that I have with the developers on an almost daily basis. I then add my own personal thoughts and opinions to give some ideas of what this all means for the game going forward. Now, of course, these are just my personal thoughts and opinions. You probably have some of your own too, and I would love for you guys to post your comments in the comment section down below, so that we can have a discussion about what direction you think Eve Echoes should be taking. What kind of content would you like to see? How do you think the stuff mentioned in this week's developer Q&A would actually impact the game? Is it good changes, bad changes, that kind of thing? Now, of course, if you do have a question for the developers yourself, there is a link in the description of this video that you can click to. It'll give you a Google form which you can fill in, send it to the developers, and if your question is one that they choose to respond to, you will win a month of basic Omega. On top of that as well, you'll also feature in one of my videos. Pretty cool, right? Now, on the subject of free Omega, I also am lucky enough to be able to give out 3 combo Omegas every single week. I give 1 to a random commenter on YouTube, and I give 2 to people on my Discord. So make sure you're commenting down below, and you're on the Catskull Discord, linked in the description below as well, and continuing the conversation there. All that said and done then, let's jump into this week's developer Q&A for the 21st to 27th of June. Of course, we are now in July, so happy July to, well, anyone who celebrates July. I don't know where I was going with that one. You'll also notice this week we do only have 3 questions again. I have asked if 3 questions is going to be the norm going forward. I'll let you know, obviously, as well, if next week you have 3 questions, well, we know it is the norm. Anyway, question number 1. The nullsec alliances are on serious shortages of slots to accommodate new outposts for its members. What? Even acquiring new sovereignty doesn't ease the problem. Do you plan to increase the number of outposts per system, maybe tied to Citadel level? What the hell is this guy smoking? Like, seriously, no we're not. Nullsec alliances are not on a serious shortage of slots to accommodate new outposts for members. Just, what? Build more sovereignty, you get tons per system, and yeah, if you have 1 Citadel per constellation and anywhere between sort of 5 and 8 systems per constellation to then put the outposts in, how the hell are you running out, other than if you're letting all of your alts have, like, every single slot possible? This doesn't speak to game problems, this speaks to alliance management issues. Like, seriously, expand your sovereignty, or like stop people having 12 alts all with outposts in your systems. I don't know, just I've never heard of this as a problem, and I speak to a lot of people in a lot of different alliances, and Capsuleer outposts is something I've been talking a lot about recently, so I'm not sure where this is coming from, but we'll see what Melos says. With the development of the in-game ecosystem, players' demands for the number of corporation members, citadels and outposts are increasing. We will organise special discussion sessions to address these issues, but currently these are not yet included in our development plan. Like, seriously, just how many corporations can you have in an alliance? Up to 30. Now, if you assume that you only build 1 corporation outpost per, 1 citadel, corporation citadel per corporation, that's still 30 corporation citadels, 30 constellations that you claim as sovereignty, and if we then assume that those all have at minimum 5 systems in those constellations, that's 30 times 5, that's 150 systems. Those can then take, what, 8 Capsuleer outposts, I believe it is? So 150 times 8, how many Capsuleer outposts do you guys have? Like, no, this to me is this is endemic of a badly managed alliance where they're just throwing Capsuleer outposts out there, and people are complaining that, no, I want my Capsuleer outpost in the same system as the corporation citadel so that I get all the bonuses from that, and wow. I don't know, maybe I'm being really unkind to that. I really don't see this as a problem, and I'm going to move on before I spend this entire video rambling about what the hell is that person going on about. Anyway, let's move on. Question number 2. Could we please allow grouping webs, Nosferatu's, armor and shield modules of the same type? This is a particularly common request and it has been addressed before, but you can combine weapons together, but it'll be very helpful if we could do it for other modules. Sometimes when I run 2 Nos or 3 webs, they can become out of sync. Actually having them out of sync for starters is a good thing. You don't want all of your Nosferatus cycling at the exact time, otherwise all you get is one sudden influx and then a slow decay. If you have them countersync, so if you've got 2 Nosferatus, activate the first one, then put the second one on in syncopated rhythm, so it is exactly halfway if possible. Not only does this mean that actually your Nosferatus will immediately switch to targets a little bit faster because it's not a full cycle, you will at most have half a cycle before a Nosferatu will be on a new target. It also means you are getting a constant and steady supply of incoming capacitor. Same with webs. Again, if you have them out of sync with each other, when you kill a target, the new web will then quickly go onto the target rather than having to wait for all 3 to come off their activation before moving on to the next target. By having them out of sync, you are actually at an advantage. You should not be syncing your webs and Nos. That said, I do understand some people would like some of these modules to sync. I'd also argue that I wouldn't really want to sync shield or armor, because again, sometimes you just want to activate one of them. I don't know, maybe with armor hardeners? Yeah, okay, armor and shield hardeners I might want to stack because those are just running, but things like shield boosters and armor repairers, you kind of, again, you want them out of sync if you're having them completely running so you don't just get one big heal, which includes the possibility of a massive overheal. If you are at 100% health and both your shield boosters go, well, you've wasted both of them. If you are at 95% and one of them boosts you 7% and takes you up to 102, you've only wasted 2%. Then, when the second one cycles, hopefully you've taken a bit of damage and it's not completely wasted. Do you see the point I'm getting at here? But that all said, I understand why sometimes people would want these to sync. And as Cloud says, mid-slot modules are of a different type and feature, and the features vary greatly. We would have to make a different stacking function for each module. We can include this in our future plan and gradually develop the stacking function for commonly used mid-slot modules. I really don't see this as a big thing. I think if you're stacking mid-slot modules, you are actually playing not to like the fullest of your intent. This again comes across as a, I want to be able to AFK and I hate having to press multiple buttons. Like, rather than pressing 3 buttons, why can't I just press 1? At which point, I kind of don't feel sorry for you all that much, if I'm being completely honest, and please don't hate me for this. I get shouted at in these dev Q&As because, oh, Benzie's against the community. No, I'm not. I think that development resource time is a precious thing. We get some really cool systems, like drop out of nowhere, like for example jump clones and the new list feature, but not if they're working on stuff like this. Even in EVE Online, you can't stack these modules because there the developers have kind of gone, it's incredibly niche that you'd ever want to, why would we spend time and resources doing this? And in regards to why you can stack weapons, it's because of how weapons calculate, and that is much easier to stack than it is to do things like Nosferatus and that. I don't see this as a big thing at all. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe you guys are going to get angry with me in the comment section again, but it's better for you. It is genuinely better for you to have these kind of modules out of step. The only reason that you stack weapons is so that you can do one big strike in one go, and even then you rarely actually want to have, if you're flying say a battleship with 8 high slots, you rarely want to have all 8 on one activation, because then if you hit something like a frigate that say has 5,000 HP and you do 25,000 damage, you've now got to wait for all 8 of your turrets to finish cycling before they can shoot again. Whereas if you had a stack of 4 and 4, the first stack would kill that frigate in one shot, the second stack can then already be targeting something else. If you are stacking heavily, you're not actually like running at optimal efficiency. So I think a change of mentality here is more important than spending development time on something like this. But hey, that's just my 2 cents. Question number 3, the third and final question, are there any plans to upgrade the contracts page? Currently, we cannot browse contracts by ship type, for example battleship. Also, when searching, often the first search returns no contracts found, and so we must wait and try again. Yeah, okay, this one I'll actually give some credence to. We will investigate the search problem, but currently there are no plans to make any big adjustments to contracts, says NPixie. Now, I've had this, where you go to search and it just comes back with nothing, you search again and suddenly it finds it. My thought on this is that basically that is just an error in connecting to the server and actually searching, because it's trying to jump ahead of itself. If that makes sense, it's trying to search on incomplete terms. It hasn't loaded the database properly to actually search it. That, I agree, that's a problem. That's a bug that needs to be fixed. As for, like, browsing and things like that, quality of life changes, for the most part, I'm all for quality of life changes as long as they are actually a quality of life change. Not like this mid-slot thing. This would be a quality of life change, having the ability to search your contracts a little bit more thoroughly, perhaps. Again, I consider it fairly niche, but I can see why it would be useful. This is something I could genuinely get behind. I don't think it's a pressing quality of life change that we need yesterday. I think there are genuinely far more pressing things than that, like in the recent video with me talking about insurance. I think a lot of people missed the point there, and the comment section was all about, like, how could we change insurance and how could we fix this and how could... And the point of that video was actually we don't need to fix insurance. What we need is to fix industry. We need an ammunition system or some kind of ore sink, something that will actually devour ore off the market, which will then increase the value of ore. We need things like market stabilization features, which in real world would be things like subsidies, having subsidies on various different ores or minerals or things like that. I prefer it to be directly on ores, not on minerals, because of reprocessing. You could, stuff like this would really help the market. Reducing gift IP would really help the stockpiles we have. Heck, I'm sitting on about 30 billion ISK worth of gift IP. I could lose 30 billion ISK worth of ship and never once generate a buy order. That's a problem. Stuff like this needs to be changed. Stuff like this needs to be added. And the more little frivolous things we add on the side, the longer those things are going to take. There are only so many developers. And again, people get angry at me when I talk about, actually, it's not a bad thing that they're trying to raise big money on these events. I think if you've got a big spender event like we just had, like with the Illusory Ghost, I'm fine with that, as long as there is also stuff available for people who don't want to spend. I'm fine with that, because the game needs money. The more money this game makes... People call me a shill for this, I'm sorry, it's basic freaking economics. The more money the game has, the more developers they can afford. If a game is doing well, then the bigwigs at the top in the suits will look at that and go, this game is doing really well, maybe we should put some more resources into that to keep things going. If a game's not doing well, they do the opposite and say, well, we'll take the resources away from it, and if it doesn't recover, we'll just let it die. Which do you want this game to do? Which direction do you want this game to go? Because we need more developers, basically, if you want all of these features. I'm beginning to ramble off on the side here, but the point I'm trying to make is quality of life features are awesome, and I love quality of life features, but you have to accept that a quality of life feature does take development time. If you say that, oh, this would be easy, it's just adding a search function, it's just that you clearly have never programmed anything in your life, let alone a mobile game, which are just horrendous to get working on any, on all types of devices. Basically, you kind of have to weigh up whether a quality of life change is important now, whether it's going to affect a lot of players, or whether it's worth spending time on the bigger fixes and things like that. So I'm for this change. I think this could be an interesting change, like addressing the contract system. That said, I think the current system is, for the most part, workable. Sometimes you just have to grab a pen and paper and make some notes, or in an Excel sheet elsewhere, and hey, this is Eve, so we all have Excel, right? Or, as someone pointed out, it's not always Excel, Benzie. I know, I actually use Google Sheets and Calc, LibreOffice Calc more often, but hey, it's just easier to say Excel and people know what I mean, you pedantic little... Anyway, so those are my thoughts and opinions on this week's developer Q&A. Little bit of angry Benzie in the first couple of ones there. I'm still at the point here where, this makes no sense to me. Question number 1 makes no sense. Question number 2, I get where people are coming from, but it's kind of a case of, you don't actually need this. I know you think you need it, but you don't need it. Can we put development time on things we actually need, please? And the third one is kind of a lesser extent of that. I think this could be nice, but we don't need it, and I think other things are more important in the meantime. Anyway, folks, that's been this week's developer Q&A. If you haven't guessed why we have a road and shipyards on the front here, it's because we're talking about Capsuleer Outposts and Citadels. And you know what I would love to see them add for Capsuleer Outposts and Citadels? Skins. They talked about this a long time ago in a developer Q&A. I would still love this to be added. I don't even care if you have to pay real-world money for these skins. That would be such a great way of raising money, and quite frankly, I would rather that our corporation Citadel looked like one of the Bruta tribes or Fucker tribes stations from EVE Online, or, you know, heck, that you could have your Capsuleer Outpost look a little bit more personal, even if it's just nanocores and the ability to change colours and things like that. That would be awesome. And it was teased in a previous developer Q&A. It's then just apparently dropped off the radar completely. So that's this week's developer Q&A. Hopefully we get 4 questions again next week, although apparently I can make 3 questions stretch out to the entire length of a video anyway, because Benzie's good at rambling. Anyway, folks, let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. Otherwise, thank you for listening right the way through to the end. Happy sailing, and see you in New Eden.